Who is he? An amazing family man or a bald killer who has served time? Is he wooden Groot or unstoppable racer Dominic Toretto? His voice is so special that he voiced the Dodge Charger in The Fast and the Furious. Well, the last one is yet to be checked. You are on the Biographer channel, and today we will talk about the life of Mark Sinclair. You didn't think Vin Diesel was a real name, did you? What was his path to becoming a top Hollywood actor? How many fights has Diesel been working as a bouncer, and who convinced him to become Groot? Get comfortable, and let's get started. Mark Sinclair was born July 18, 1967 in Alameda County, California, the son of a theater agent and theater instructor. He was born with his twin brother, who was named Paul Vincent. Their biological father left their mother before they were even born. The boys were raised by their mother and stepfather, who soon adopted them. Mother, Delora Shirlene Vincent, in addition to the theater, was also an astrologer. The adoptive father, Irving H. Vincent, worked as an acting teacher and theater manager. When Mark was 3 years old, his family moved to Irving and settled in New York, in a poor and not the most prosperous city area. There, the family had two more children, Tim and Samantha. According to Mark, he has an ambiguous ethnicity. Delora, a Dominican immigrant, is of English, German, and Scottish descent. The boy never met his biological father, but he described him as definitely a person of color. All I know from my mother is that I have connections to many different cultures. Mark's mother and stepfather met while working as theater performers in New York in the 1960s. Thanks to them, Mark became interested in acting at a young age. Parents took their children to various productions and film premieres, and Mark began to participate in performances when he was only 7 years old. He first appeared in the children's play Dinosaur Door, written by Barbara Garson. It was staged at the theater for the New York City and New York's Greenwich Village. Mark was lucky because everything in his life could have turned out completely differently at that moment. From childhood, he was a self-proclaimed waif who had fights and troubles with the law. But the fights and robbery brought him to the theater for the new city when he, his brother, and a few friends broke into the theater on Jane Street, intending to play with theater props and vandalize it. They were confronted by the artistic director of the Crystal Field Theater, who offered them roles in Dinosaur Door instead of calling the police. Mark continued to work in theater throughout his teenage years and attributed his passion for acting to help him turn his life around and stay out of trouble. Mother gave little Mark a book called Feature Films at Used Car Prices. Diesel believed that this gift gave him an understanding of the basics of filmmaking and significantly influenced his success as an adult. Since his mother worked as a theatrical agent, she often took her son to her auditions. It was the beginning of his love for acting. After graduating, Sinclair attended Hunter College, where he studied English literature. His study of creative writing led him to write screenplays. At the same time, Mark continued to engage in acting and perform in the theater. He recalled himself a multifaceted actor. He soon dropped out of college to become a real actor, but struggled to make ends meet in New York. Mark worked as a bouncer and a salesman in a TV store, and in his spare time, he attended auditions. In fact, working in clubs was quite convenient since his mornings and afternoons were free for auditions. In a recent interview, the actor recalled, "I grew up surrounded by great artists. Miles Davis recorded in our building, and I was encouraged to act. But I also worked as a bouncer and got in 500 fights a year. That's just who I was. I was working the door at these famous nightclubs one night and then reading drama or playing Dungeons & Dragons the next." In total, Mark worked as a bouncer for 10 years in between acting performances. He was often met with ridicule due to his thin and elongated physique. It inspired him to do daily workouts and gain muscle mass. Diesel later admitted that he and his buddies referred to their growing biceps as Kryptonics, a popular brand of skateboarding wheels. At that time, while working as a bouncer at the New York nightclub Tunnel, he took on a pseudonym. His real name, Mark Sinclair Vincent, seemed to him not cool enough, and for his safety in such a job, he officially changed it to Vin Diesel. He took the name Vin from his mother's married surname Vincent, thanks to his friends who called him Vinny as a child. Diesel was a reference to his high level of energy. In addition to acting and working, as a teenager, Vin sneaked into New York City nightclubs to practice his dancing skills for free. Diesel is a big fan of breakdancing. Originating as part of hip-hop culture in New York City in the 1980s, breakdancing was a popular style of street dance. It was during Vin's youth in the early 80s, he joined a breakdancing team called the Rocksteady Crew. The legendary dance group, founded in 1977 in the Bronx, pioneered the breakdancing style and popularized hip-hop culture worldwide. Vin was one of the youngest team members and quickly became known for his breakdancing skills, although the actor claimed that he had never seen this video. Vin Diesel has performed with the Rocksteady crew at various events and competitions in New York. According to him, breakdancing helped him develop his physical form and stage skills as an actor. He remained a fan of hip-hop culture and participated in various hip-hop-related projects throughout his career. Moreover, once he admitted that it was only for the sake of dancing that he then began to work as a bouncer in a nightclub.
And the only time I ever got in trouble as a bouncer is when I was dancing.
Diesel's first film role was an appearance in the 1990 drama Awakenings. At the same time, the newcomer was not even in the credits. After years of struggling for acting roles, Diesel made his short film on a $3,000 budget to raise funds for his feature film debut. For his first full-fledged film role, he wrote, directed, produced, and starred in the short indie drama Multifacial himself. It was partly autobiographical and based on his experience as a multinational Hollywood actor who got stuck in the audition process. The film was selected for screening at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival.
There was one part I never forgot. At the end of the play, when the white real estate man comes to give a black family money not to move into his neighborhood, my dad began to speak.
But of course, it was not possible to immediately become a famous actor and director, so he returned to work as a TV shop salesman. Now, the level of dedication of the guy in simple advertising, which at the time set him apart from the rest of the actors, shows that he simply could not fail to become successful.
Soft on the outside, but the same biting and punching power. Look at that! Brotherly love!
Shark
Blades
attack.
and Ripster! That's
Awesome.
right, folks. We back them every step of the way.
Yeah.
They're tearing up the streets in 1995 and destroying the competition.
After accumulating about $50,000, Diesel set to work on his first feature film, the drama film Strays. The plot is about a drug dealer and con man fed up with his monotonous lifestyle. He falls in love and begins to search for meaning in his life. As you might guess, the film once again shows Vin's youth and growing up in New York. Interestingly, Vin Diesel was fascinated by cars from a young age. Already in this film, they are given some attention, and the passion remained with the actor for life. The film was Diesel's debut as a feature film director and premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 1997. After that, MTV made a deal with Vin to turn the film into a series, but it never came to fruition.
What is that?
Amarone? It's an incredible Italian red wine, and Amarone means love.
Based on the work of Vin Diesel, the actor's childhood was not easy, but he learned to survive in difficult conditions and build his career on his own. These skills later helped him achieve success in Hollywood and become one of the most famous actors of his generation. Moreover, by that time, one director drew attention to Diesel, thanks to which the gates to Hollywood were finally opened for him. In 1997, the eminent director Steven Spielberg saw the film Strays. He was already impressed with Diesel's performance in Multifacial and decided to include him in his epic war film Saving Private Ryan. The director created a new character specifically for Diesel. It was the actor's first significant role in a Hollywood film. The plot was based on the story of a group of soldiers stationed in France during World War II, whose mission was to rescue Private James Ryan from the war after 3 of his brothers were killed. Spielberg invited Tom Hanks and Matt Damon to work on the film. The Polish cameraman Janusz Kaminski was entrusted to shoot the picture. The music was written by the legendary John Williams. Vin got the role of battle-hardened but compassionate soldier Adrian Caparso, for which he received his first fee of $100,000.
Parza? Is it,
Hey, drop dead, Corporal.
Gotcha.
And another thing, every time you salute the captain, you make him a target for the Germans. So do us a favor, don't do it. Especially when I'm standing next to him, capiche?
All lead actors except Matt Damon went through a grueling week-long military training course at a boot camp led by technical consultant Dale Dye. Damon was spared so that the other actors were outraged by him, and their feeling was conveyed in the shot. It was not easy for Diesel, even though he had a minor role. He found himself drinking heavily during the filming, which made the already hard process of participating in a war film very difficult. The actor realized he needed to change something and decided to stop drinking to focus on his health and career. He has remained sober ever since, and according to him, quitting drinking was one of his best decisions. It is also interesting that according to Vin, Spielberg took him to the project as an actor and director, and just in the death scene of Diesel's character, he advised an experienced director to shoot a shot from a second-floor window. Vin asked the director, "Hey, Steven, where's your C camera?" He did not understand, but Vin continued, put a C camera in that second floor window. The shot was incredible. Years later, recalling the dialogue with Spielberg, he laughed and said that he should not have told him that. But having spent his childhood watching Sidney Lumet and early Scorsese in Manhattan film theaters and hanging out with his father's theater friends, Vin wanted to not only be in the cinema world, but change it. And he got the opportunity only thanks to Steven Spielberg. But it was a blessing, and I can say that because Steven was also the person who said, "I didn't hire you just as an actor, Vin. I expect you to be directing. I expect you to be directing." The film received the status of the best war film and several nominations for film awards. Saving Private Ryan won 5 Oscars, and Vin Diesel, along with his castmates, was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award in the category Best Performance by a Group of Actors. Vin was more than grateful to Spielberg, of whom he was a fan. The actor happily recalled working with a cult director. That movie opened up so many doors for me, and I got to sit around the set and bug Spielberg with all these questions about directing. And later, I got the chance to work for Sidney Lumet, another director on my bucket list. Almost immediately after the film's release, Vin was invited to participate in the voice acting of the animated film The Iron Giant. Studio Warner Brothers cast Diesel as Iron Giant, a 50-foot metal-eating robot, as soon as they heard his voice. The Giant's voice was planned to be modulated electronically, but the creators found Vin's expressive and deep voice with only a little processing.
Rock, tree. Get it? That's right!
The 2000s began quite successfully for Vin. He, Saving Private Ryan co-star Giovanni Ribisi, and Ben Affleck appeared in the crime drama Boiler Room. The film's about a group of young brokers hired to sell cheap stocks to unsuspecting investors. Diesel played the role of Chris Varick, a senior broker for the corrupt brokerage firm J.T. Marlin. He is a mentor and boss for Ribisi's character. Vin Diesel's performance in Boiler Room was well received by critics and helped establish himself as a serious actor. He brought a sense of intensity and charisma to the role of Chris Varick, and his character's assertiveness was both captivating and unsettling. The film paid off at the box office and has become a cult classic.
I'm not a Charles Schwab. I don't need your business. I value it. I'm successful to the point where I don't need to chase your business.
In the same year, Vin appeared in the science fiction action horror Pitch Black, directed by David Twohy. It became a significant role for the actor after the film's release, even though it was the first actor's lead role after his directorial debut. Vin had the role of dangerous criminal Richard B. Riddick, who managed to escape while being transported to prison on a spaceship. In the story, a damaged ship made an emergency landing on a desert planet, and when predatory creatures began to attack the survivors, Riddick teamed up with them to leave the planet. Most of the filming process, including all outside locations, was in Australia around Coober Pedy, in the south of the continent. The location, which was supposed to be a hot, arid desert, had a temperature of about 10 degrees Celsius, or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the actors had to be sprayed with water to create the appearance of sweat. The lighting team set up powerful lamps between takes to warm up the rest of the crew before returning to work. Filming in places like Coober Pedy impressed Vin Diesel. He had never been to such locations and said the following in an interview. "The location is an amazing place in the middle of the desert. Not a tree, not a thing in sight, other than dirt. A few houses make up the town of about 2,000 people. I'm from New York. I grew up in a building of 1,000 people." Diesel's character wore special goggles to protect his eyes from the painful daylight, but in the dark, his character could see perfectly. But in addition to glasses, special contact lenses Shine Jaw were created, which at the time were a prototype. After the first day of shooting, when the crew tried to remove the contact lenses, it didn't work out. They had to call an optometrist from the nearest town, and because of the place of shooting, the nearest city was 3 hours away. Soon, the lenses were removed, and Diesel called them hubcaps. But it was not the only problem that happened to the actor. While filming the scene in the cryo chamber, Vin Diesel had a panic attack. Since the actor was there for too long, he felt like he was trapped.
A long time between stops. A long time for something to go wrong.
Pitch Black was a box office success. Critics rated the picture positively, and soon work began on a sequel to the project, which was once again entrusted to David Twohy. It started a whole franchise with Vin Diesel in the role of Riddick, which was replenished with more than one film and computer games: The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, and Assault on Dark Athena. By the way, you can actually find the full-size spaceship used in the film Pitch Black in the mining town of Coober Pedy in the Australian outback. A local businessman bought it shortly after filming ended, and now it stands out in the open and is visible on Google Maps on Hutchison Street opposite Winch Street. In the meantime, the actor has begun work on a film that hardly needs an introduction. Rob Cohen's action film The Fast and the Furious. Vin Diesel's partners on the set were Paul Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, and Jordana Brewster. Who would have known that the acquaintance would be more for them than a partnership on the film set? And what happens in the shot of the film actually happened at night on the streets of New York. The film is about an LAPD officer who infiltrated the world of street racing to investigate a series of truck thefts. The role of Officer O'Connor was played by Paul Walker, who was cast back in 1998. Later the following year, Vin Diesel was chosen to play Dominic Toretto, the ringleader of a group of robbers. He was not the first choice and replaced Timothy Olyphant, who refused, even though he had only minor roles at that time. As a result, the actors became good friends during their work.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Nothing else matters, not the mortgage, not the store, not my team and all their bullshit. For those 10 seconds or less, I'm free.
During film preparation, they participated in real street races. It's funny that Jordana Brewster and Michelle Rodriguez didn't even have a driver's license before filming, so they took driving lessons during filming. It is also interesting that Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez dated off-screen during filming, just like their on-screen characters. However, it did not last long. Michelle insisted on breaking up, and neither of them admitted it. Only a year later, Diesel confessed that he dated Michelle, and after that, the actor refused any dates with celebrities. I prefer dating in Europe, where I'm not as easily recognized. I think celebrity-on-celebrity hookups are crazy. People going through your trash, taking your photo at Starbucks, mashing up your last names into a Bennifer-style punchline. In the scenes of racing wars, real drivers drove their cars to participate in the shot. In total, about 1,500 cars participated, and as a result, 78 of them were broken. Interestingly, Dominic Toretto's car, a Mazda RX-7, originally had a roll cage, but for filming, it was decided to dismantle it so that Vin Diesel could fit in it. For the film, a special construction was built. The car was sawn up and connected to a truck with the help of which the video was filmed. So many high-speed scenes could be shot from a low angle from the car body, not putting the actors at risk. Filming took place on the streets of Los Angeles. The film has an alternate finale called More Than Furious and was released in a DVD's collector pack. The film came out extremely successful. Reviews from critics were mixed. Some considered the plot mediocre, but at the same time called the picture a breakthrough in the career of both Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. Despite that, with a budget of $38 million, the film grossed over $207 million at the box office and brought huge popularity to the main actors. All merchandise, from music to metal replicas of models in scale from 1/18 to 1/64, and radio-controlled toys, everything was gaining popularity among young people and, in fact, guaranteed the film to continue. Work on it began in the same year. However, Vin abandoned the project. He was offered a fee of $25 million, and the actor undertook to familiarize himself with the script, but after reading it, Vin rejected the offer. He considered that its potential was inferior to that of its predecessor and preferred another project, The Chronicles of Riddick. At the same time, the Fast and the Furious director Rob Cohen invited Diesel to his new project. So in 2022, the actor appeared in the action-adventure XXX, in which he played Xander Cage, a thrill-seeker, an extreme athlete recruited by the government as a spy. The film had an $88 million budget to allow extensive filming at Prague in the Czech Republic and Bora Bora in Tahiti, while the bridge jump scene was filmed at Forest Hill Bridge in Auburn State Recreation Area, California. The film included several interesting cameos, and in addition, Czech Su-22s were involved in the filming. The directors asked the Czech Air Force to lend their 2 planes for the film, but they were told they could get the entire fleet. All that was required as payment was a donation of $50,000 to the pilot's hospital and the purchase of beer for everyone involved. Vin Diesel decided to do most of his stunts himself and worked diligently for the role for 3 months. However, during the avalanche scene, Vin fell, landed head first, and did not move. The director was worried that the star of his film might break his neck. Everything worked out, so the most dangerous stunts were performed by stuntmen after that incident. The director recalled, "I think the thing is that Vin did more than he should have, but less than he wanted to." The Corvette bridge jump scene was performed by Tim Rigby wearing a Vin Diesel mask. The bridge is 730 feet high and filmed with 18 cameras for entertainment. Vin intended to perform this trick but suddenly fell ill and dropped out of the process for a week. Another motorcycle jump was performed by professional motocross racer and stuntman Jeremy Stenberg. Later, Diesel's face was added digitally. He confessed,
Something very fascinating about playing Xander Cage was that I'd have to do 3 months of preparation and training. I'm a thrill seeker myself to some degree, and I just completely enjoyed that process. I'd never been on a motocross bike before in my life, and on the first day I'm doing jumps. I trained with the best motocross experts to have the opportunity to go off and do those things, and to have the opportunity to do them under the supervision of the best.
But the accidents on the set did not end with one Vin's fall. His stunt double Harry O'Connor hit a pillar of the Palacky Bridge in Prague and died tragically. He was supposed to perform a parachute jump during one of the action scenes. The first take went off without incident, but tragedy struck on the second. The lucky take was used in the completed film, and the picture was dedicated to Harry O'Connor. During filming, Vin Diesel met 18-year-old Czech model Pavla Urbkova and fell in love so much that he proposed to her. At that time, the 16 years of age difference did not bother him. He gave me a diamond ring and explained that he was not just giving diamonds to a girl, but that it was an engagement ring. I was out of breath, so I pointed out to him that I still have plenty of time for such things. At that time, Pavla had already met Diesel's parents, who were as delighted with her as she was with the star's house in Beverly Hills, furnished mainly with natural and white wood furniture. Vin explained to Pavla that his parents were excited because none of his relationships had lasted so long. According to Pavla, Vin cooked her hearty American breakfasts with sausages and waffles, but still, she preferred to finish school, and soon the couple broke up. As for the film, it was a box office success, grossing $277 million, and further solidifying Vin Diesel's status as an action star. XXX received mixed reviews, but that didn't stop the creators from taking on the development of a sequel.
Oh, and no offense, but their performances were terrible.
Vin Diesel also turned down the role and soon appeared in the expected sequel, The Chronicles of Riddick, reprising the anti-hero Richard B. Riddick. Firstly, he was offered $11 million for the role instead of $10, which he could receive for the sequel XXX. And secondly, the actor first acted as a co-producer of the film. Did you know that Vin Diesel is also a producer and musical performer? According to him, music has always been an important part of his life, and he sees the connection between music and acting. Many consider the actor's singing to be funny, which is why he was often embarrassed to do it. But listen to how he sounds.
Oh, now tell me now, tell me now, tell me now, you know.
Do you think Vin would make a good soul performer? Or maybe hip-hop? Write what you think in the comments below the video, reread them carefully, and keep in touch on interesting topics. Back in 1995, Diesel set up his own production company called One Race Films to release his films. This name sometimes flashes in the text or in the shot of the pictures with Vin, to which he put his hand as a producer. By the way, the appearance of Judi Dench in the film was the desire of Vin Diesel. Being a longtime fan of Dench, he wanted her to play Ariana and went to great lengths to get her. Vin filled the actress's dressing room with bouquets and advised her not to start casting the film until she finally agreed to accept the role. Years later, the actress admitted that she never understood what was happening in this film, but she really liked its production.
And whose throat is this?
If you cut my throat, I'll not be able to rescind the offer that brought you here.
Their picture received too large a budget, about $120 million, because of which it could not become commercially successful. Of course, it was not the only problem. The film was critically acclaimed, and Diesel received a Razzie Award for Worst Actor nomination at the 2004 Golden Raspberry Awards. But it seems that this did not really hurt him because over time, the film became a cult classic and work on a sequel began. Surprisingly, the series, born out of the once rewritten script for Alien 3, became popular and continued to expand. People were reluctant to watch the first and the second films in the cinema, but thanks to the release of the media, the film earned immense popularity. Vin also voiced the character in 2 games of the same name and the 2004 anime film, The Chronicles of Riddick: Dark Fury, directed by Peter Chung. Participation in action films coming out one after another quickly made the actor a new superstar, and his image, which stood out against the other actors, attracted more and more attention from young people. Vin's pumped-up body appeared in the shot in a t-shirt or not covered at all. In just 5 years, this image has become very recognizable. Therefore, when Vin appeared on the screen in the family comedy The Pacifier the following year, for many, it was a shock. Obviously, he did not want to play the same type of character, and participation in the film was a successful experiment because of the created contrast between the actor and his new character. In the comedy, Vin played the role of Navy SEAL Shane Wolf, who, after a failed mission, was appointed as a nanny for 5 children.
Let me explain to you how the chain of command works. I tell you what to do, and you do it! End of chain. I'm not gonna have time to remember all of your names. You'll be Red Leader, Red Baby, Red One, Red... Where's the older male? There were 5.
Interestingly, the film was originally created for Jackie Chan. The idea of the family's pet duck was added to the original script as a joke that Jackie planned to kill the duck and cook it for dinner, but when this terrified the kids, Chan reluctantly left the duck and took care of it. Although Jackie Chan's suit dropped out of the project, and they began to rewrite the script for Diesel, they decided to save the family pet anyway. The same duck was involved in the filming of the entire film. Vin was illuminated with a red light for her to bite Vin Diesel in the ear in one of the scenes. By the way, Jackie left the project, but something remained after him. Stuntmen from his team performed the ninjas. It is also worth noting that after Chan left for the role of Shane Wolf in addition to Diesel, Dwayne Johnson was also considered. Later, their paths would cross again. Critics did not appreciate the actor's ridicule of his image, but the audience brought the film a box office of almost $200 million. Vin Diesel remained a commercially successful actor for a decade, until he got the opportunity to fulfill his second acting dream and play in a film directed by Sidney Lumet. So in 2006, Vin appeared in the courtroom comedy drama Find Me Guilty, based on the true story of the longest mafia trial in American history. The actor played the role of Jackie DiNorcio, a mafia from New Jersey who was on trial for racketeering along with 19 of his accomplices, and his project partners were Peter Dinklage, Linus Roach, and Alex Rocco.
He's a junkie. Deep down inside, he loves me. He's mine.
Let me just get somebody to sit with you so you don't make any legal errors. It's a goddamn jungle in here.
Let me tell you something. When they fucked with me, they woke a sleeping giant. I'll handle it.
DiNorcio himself chose Diesel for the screen version of himself. Even after watching The Fast and the Furious, he decided that Vin Diesel should play him, which surprised the actor. Diesel gained over 30 pounds for his role and spent 2 hours a day in makeup to look like DiNorcio. Sidney Lumet had Vin come to rehearsals in full makeup to make it easier for the rest of the cast to respond to Diesel as a character. When the film was released, Vin received critical acclaim for his performance, but the situation was different. Find Me Guilty underperformed at the box office, grossing only $2 million against a $13 million budget. By the way, do you remember the film Vin turned down earlier? Too Fast, Too Furious? At that time, the creators had to rewrite the script under Tyrese Gibson to somehow do without Vin. They succeeded, and the film again collected a high box office of $236 million, which obviously hurt the actor's feelings. Therefore, when the creators announced that they were developing a continuation of the series with new actors, Diesel asked to return to the project and received a short cameo in the finale of The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift.
You know this ain't no 10-second race.
I got nothing but time.
Vin did not make such mistakes again and remained in the racing saga, and the project has grown over the years. If we talk about all the nuances in this video, then it will drag on for several hours. But we still want to mention the most interesting moments of the series. The following year, Justin Lin, director of the third part, took over the production of the fourth Fast and Furious. Vin Diesel returned to the lead role and produced the film. Moreover, from that moment, he would produce all subsequent parts of the series and influence the project. Vin originally suggested a fourth and fifth film in a row, but Universal decided to wait a while to see what the fourth film was like before moving on to the fifth. Diesel got an offer to direct an 18-minute short film called Los Bandoleros before the fourth part of the series. It explored Don Omar and Tigo Calderon's characters Leo and Santos and established Don's friendship with Han, Sung Kang's character from Tokyo Drift. The short film was released on DVD.
verdad, Señor. Gracias por este día y mi familia. Bendice esta comida y que nos caiga bien. Amén. Gracias por Padre.
There was no need to worry about the success of the fourth film. In a sequel called Fast 5, also by director Justin Lin, screenwriter Chris Morgan, and producer Vin Diesel. And it not only came out, but became the most spectacular and successful film of the series at that time, having grossed over $626 million at the box office. Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Sung Kang, and Dwayne Johnson joined the usual cast. According to Diesel, Dwayne Johnson got into Fast and Furious 5 at the suggestion of a fan named Jan Kelly, who wanted to see them work together on screen. During pre-production, the already big actor nicknamed The Rock worked out every day, and he wanted to appear formidable for his role as a bounty hunter. Filming the big fight between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel took over a week. Some of the actors who appeared earlier became part of Vin Diesel's so-called family, which is why memes continue to circulate in the community to this day that Diesel is making a family film and that Fast and Furious is the new Santa Barbara. It got to the point that the filmmakers obviously caught the joke and began to deliberately insert conversations about the family on behalf of Vin Diesel.
Tom, promise me we stick together.
Promise.
Fast 5 and Diesel were nominated for several awards such as the Teen Choice Awards and the People's Choice Awards, but Vin didn't get prizes. The picture looked like an excellent end to the franchise, but the creators did not think so. And it seems that Vin Diesel, who is now in charge of everything, did not think so either. Fast and Furious 5 is a film that the franchise has to thank for its rise. It turned out to be the most high quality and exciting against the background of the previous and the next ones, and the franchise moved to a higher league at the box office. In many ways, it was the merit of Vin who was for the development of a single continuous story and not separate, incoherent sequels. He was able to save the series from failure after the weak box office of the third part and help tie it to the main story. And perhaps at that moment, he realized it because the Vin we knew before disappeared and was replaced by a more self-confident and outrageous Diesel. No, of course he didn't get arrogant. The actor was still a nice guy to the fans and a good father to his family, but something in him still changed. The Fast and Furious franchise began experimenting with the genre. It was no longer that chamber action film about cars and races. With each new film, the bar of drama and action went uphill and turned the film into an Indian film with tanks, submarines, and endless runways. The continuation was divided into two films, which were shot one after the other. We have to pay off this story. We have to service all of these character relationships, and when we started mapping all that out, it just went beyond 110 pages. The studio said you can't fit all that story in one damn movie. But after the successful premiere of the sixth film, tragedy struck. In a fatal car accident, one of the main characters and Vin Diesel's best friend, Paul Walker, died. It was an unbearable loss for all Fast and Furious and the actor's fans. No one expected Paul's death. The entire Fast and Furious team mourned that loss, but most of all, it hit Vin Diesel, with whom Walker had long been his best friend. The seventh film became a stumbling block, and its production was stopped. Vin did not know what to do with the franchise, although many of his friends and fans told him to move on with his life.
But the relationships in that franchise are so strong, and the brotherhood so real.
The studio considered canceling the seventh film and filming a new one, but after talking with Walker's relatives, work on the film continued to say goodbye to the actor with dignity. In some scenes, Paul Walker was played by stuntmen and his brothers. Some showed footage from episodes not included in previous films in the franchise. When Fast and Furious 7 hit cinemas in 2015, it broke all series records. With a budget of $190 million, the project collected $1.5 billion at the worldwide box office. And the title track took first place in the charts of different countries for several months.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
I used to say I lived my life a quarter mile at a time. And I think that's why we were brothers. Because you did too.
We like Vin, miss Paul very much. To this day, fans around the world remember and mourn his loss. If you want to know more about how this happened, we made a video. Click on the hint in the upper right corner and watch it. After the film's release, Dwayne Johnson suddenly lashed out at Diesel for allegedly not including some footage with him. Now, it looks far-fetched, but then The Rock intended to leave the project. Soon, Vin Diesel announced a spin-off series with Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham in the lead roles. When The Fate of the Furious, the 8th film in the series, was released, the relationship between Diesel and Johnson finally deteriorated, and The Rock, nevertheless, left the project. No one understood what the reason was, but there was a theory that Vin Diesel took the project and Johnson's character too seriously, which he could not stand. The spin-off was the last film with him in the automotive saga. The 9th Fast and the Furious suffered some setbacks with the COVID-19 pandemic that suddenly began and waited for the first cinemas to open. At the box office, it grossed several times less than the previous part, but at such times, it was a good indicator. Immediately after its release, Vin Diesel announced that the next part would be the final in the series, but after that he said that the 10th Fast and the Furious would be divided into 2 parts, due to the amount of work, the number of locations, and the characters.
Fast 10, is this going to be the biggest and best one yet?
It's going to be the biggest and best one yet, and in so many ways it's going to be the biggest and best one yet. In some ways, it's just the fact that we're continuing. In some ways, the fact that we're continuing a saga, and we have incredible talent like Tyrese Gibson that live and breathe the role of Roman.
It is worth noting that in addition to developing an on-screen family, Vin, at the same time, got a family in real life and quickly plunged into fatherhood. Back in 2007, the 40-year-old actor met 23-year-old Mexican model Paloma Jimenez. Vin did not rush to marry. Then, in an interview, the actor claimed that marriage was just a formality, and in fact, he just wanted to have his own family. While I was doing Pacifier, it really started to bring out this desire to have a child. It took a couple years after that to find the right person and to hopefully be mature enough to be a great father, which is really all you want to do. A year after they met, in April 2008, the couple had a daughter, Hania Riley. By the way, Diesel's on-screen family has the same meaning for him as the real one because Vin's ex-girlfriend Michelle Rodriguez became the godmother of the girl. A strange decision, but who are we to judge? Interestingly, when his girlfriend was preparing for childbirth, Diesel starred in Fast and Furious 4 and was torn between his family and professional obligations until Paul Walker gave him some great advice. He came to my trailer at the end of the day and said, "Something's on your mind." I had a secret. I wasn't telling anyone in the world that my daughter was about to be born. I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "Vin, you go into that hospital room and you cut the umbilical cord. It will be the best day of your life." At that time, Paul was already a father. Therefore, when Vin questioned whether he should be present at the birth, Paul answered that many men would refuse, but it would be the best thing to do. Vin listened to his friend, and that day brought him closer to his beloved and his daughter. According to Diesel, he did everything but literally pull her out. He cut the umbilical cord. He was more present than he could have ever dreamed of, but the bonding that allowed for with his daughter is priceless. In 2010, the couple had a boy, whom Vin named, combining his real and stage names, Vincent Sinclair. And in March 2015, the daughter Pauline joined the family. She was named after Vin's close friend, Paul Walker. The couple still has not formalized their relationship and is in a civil marriage. Vin's main life goal is to become a better parent. Naming Pauline after his best friend, Vin wanted to keep the memory of him. It felt like, a way to keep his memory a part of my family and a part of my world. I'm sure that Walker was in the room. There's no other person that I was thinking about as I was cutting this umbilical cord. I just knew he was there. Paul taught and influenced Vin a lot. According to the actor, he was an important part of his development as a parent. That is probably why, years later, he maintains a warm relationship with Paul's daughter and is her godfather. By the way, Vincent Sinclair made his film debut not so long ago. In Fast and Furious 9, Diesel's son played Dominic Toretto as a child, a character his father played throughout the saga. Now, Vin's children are engaged in martial arts. His son Vincent studies kung fu, karate, and boxing, and when asked in an interview if they consider their father cool, the boy answered with confidence.
I just heard you said your kids got karate.
Yes.
And yellow belt and blue belt.
Yeah, they both have had belts in judo, but my son now is taking after school karate, and I have to be here today. But they sent over a video of him getting his belt.
So do they think
Proud
you're
move.
cool? Even though you're the dad, do they?
Do they think I'm cool?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
Vin Diesel gave half of his life to the Fast and the Furious universe and became associated with it as much as it did with him. But despite that, there were other interesting projects in his career. But before we go back a few years, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel, where we regularly delight subscribers with new videos, so you can be among the first to find out the most truthful and interesting information about the idols of millions. Subscribe, and we'll continue. Let's go back to a few years ago when petrol had not yet flowed through the veins of Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious had not captured the actor's consciousness. After a cameo in Tokyo Drift, the actor was approached to play the hitman Agent 47 in the film adaptation of the popular video game Hitman. But, in the end, Vin turned it down. Instead, he became an executive producer on the film and went on to star in a project with director Matthew Kasowitz. More precisely, it was the studio 20th Century Fox, contrary to the director, who wanted Diesel to play in Babylon A.D., an adaptation of the sci-fi novel Babylon Babies by Maurice Georges-Dantek. Vin played the role of mercenary and ex-Marine Hugo Torop. According to the plot, he was a professional smuggler who was deported to Eastern Europe, where he had to work as a hired smuggler. His co-stars were Michelle Yeoh, Gerard Depardieu, and Mark Strong. But the film was not successful and failed both at the box office and according to critics. The possible reason for that was the large budget for such a film and unsuccessful editing. Vin Diesel was amazed at how the film was cut. By the time the production of the fourth Fast and the Furious was completed, he had not yet seen a single version of the film and joked, "Am I even in the movie anymore? Or am I on the cutting room floor?" At the same time, Vin, a big fan of games since childhood, took up the development of his game studio, Tygon Studios. It is under Diesel's production company, One Race Films, produced and developed the games of the series The Chronicles of Riddick. Diesel claimed that Steven Spielberg inspired him to create the studio. When I realized Steven Spielberg was entering the game world unabashedly, somehow that gave me the green card to launch a video game company that would speak to a favorite pastime, or one of my favorite pastimes. So, in 2009, Diesel's studio released the game Wheelman, where the actor appeared as a character. The game is a simple, open-world action-adventure focused on driving around a destructible city. In addition to computer games, Vin Diesel is also a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons. He's been playing it since he was a teenager, which he sometimes mentioned in interviews. He even wrote the foreword for the 30th anniversary edition of the D&D Player's Handbook.
Beginning to coalesce behind her in the form of some sort of humanoid, wraith-like entity that begins to reach out for her.
So I should
attack. Reddish yellow flames begin to burst up the outside of this metallic blade.
Baller.
Yeah, right? Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's
my
beautiful.
God.
What is that, 20?
It's 20. Yeah. You swipe down.
Between car movies and family life, Vin managed to play in the continuation of another of his cult series. At one time, Vin successfully talked with Universal Pictures and agreed that he would appear in the film Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift in exchange for the rights to the Riddick franchise. So he got the full right to engage in its development and production. Diesel's original version was for the Chronicles of Riddick to be like J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. Pitch Black was supposed to be a standalone film to set the universe, like The Hobbit, and the next films were supposed to be a trilogy about Riddick, like The Lord of the Rings. David Twohy became the film director again. However, the production was in danger of being closed due to funding delays. Vin then financed the film himself until the bank loan was paid off. "I had to leverage my house," Diesel said. "If we didn't finish the film, I would be homeless." In 2013, the film Riddick was released. Reviews were mixed, but it grossed the box office.
Yet again, someone was trying to play me. So yet again, we play for blood.
It seems that even in this series of films, it became noticeable that Vin is changing. In an interview, he admitted that Riddick's release was delayed because he did not want to play a killer, having just become a father. Vin considered this unfair to the audience and the newborn child. Therefore, he soon had to literally jump from work on Fast and Furious to work on Riddick, which required a special physical approach. Preparing for Riddick required muscle building and training, while for Fast and the Furious, the form had to be quickly dropped and then regained for Riddick. The actor recalled, "I was about 2 weeks into shooting Dom, and my twin brother came out from New York to visit me. We went to dinner, and he goes like this to my stomach. 'Hey man, that's solid. You are cheating, man. I read somewhere that when you do the Dom character, you drink a lot of beers to get a mechanic's belly. Where is it, man?' But Vin hasn't grown a beer belly yet. By the way, Diesel's brother, Paul Vincent, is also associated with cinema and works as an editor. They are very close, and Vin credits his brother with helping him stay grounded and focused throughout his career. The same year, Vin received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the following year he surprised many fans by voicing one atypical character for himself.
What the hell? They call it Groot, a humanoid plant that's been traveling recently as 89P13's personal houseplant / muscle.
It was his first role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Guardians of the Galaxy, and although at first it did not require much effort, the role was nevertheless complex and outstanding. According to Vin, it was one of the toughest tests you could ask an actor to do. The film director James Gunn recalled in an interview, "The ways in which Vin Diesel says, 'I am Groot,' I am astounded. All of the 'I am Groots' that were earlier voices didn't sound very good at all. Vin came in and one day laid down all these 'I am Groot' tracks, and he's a perfectionist. It was amazing when we first put that voice in there how much the character changed and how much he influenced the character." This role turned up to Vin at the moment when he was experiencing the loss of Paul Walker. At that time, he was returning to normal communication with people, and suddenly he was offered to voice a character who celebrates life after death, as Groot does.
I am Groot.
According to him, it was very pleasant. In addition, for the first time in his career, Vin voiced Groot in several other languages besides English.
French.
Je suis Groot.
Correct.
Je suis content.
No, Groot. Spanish.
Soy Groot.
See how your voice went deeper for that one.
I know.
Yeah, because you were like, the first one you were like, Je suis Groot.
Exactly.
And then
you're right. It's
Soy
true.
Groot.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Mandarin.
Mandarin.
That's the tricky one.
Well, they don't say
Vin Mandarin.
Whoa, she galuta.
Vin admitted that his son Vincent helped him decide on this role. Diesel brought him a comic showing characters from Guardians of the Galaxy. He asked his son, "Which one do you think they want Daddy to play?" And the boy immediately pointed to the tree. The actor was amazed and told the producers yes. Now every time they drive past the trees, Vincent says, "Look, Daddy, it's your brothers and sisters." By the way, many years ago, Vin already tried to get into the film adaptation of Marvel Comics. In 2003, he was considered for the role of Daredevil, but in the end, it went to Ben Affleck. In 2015, Vin appeared on the screen in an urban fantasy action film directed by Breck Eisner, The Last Witch Hunter. His partners on the set were Rose Leslie, Elijah Wood, and Michael Caine. Diesel had the role of an immortal witch hunter who must stop the plague that devastated the world. In addition, he acted as a film producer. Considering that Vin spent many years in Dungeons & Dragons and even taught how to play Judi Dench on the set of the Chronicles of Riddick, the main character of this film was partially based on his old character from Dungeons & Dragons, Melkor, who was a witch hunter. It was partly because Diesel enjoyed being a ranger, but he also enjoyed using certain spells. Previously, Melkor has already received his cameo in another Diesel film, XXX. The actor's character has a tattoo with the inscription Melkor on his stomach. Regarding The Last Witch Hunter, critics found the film to be boring but praised Diesel's character. At the box office, the picture paid off, and since then, rumors about a possible sequel have been popping up everywhere.
I drip-dried him like he was a stuck pig!
Our priest and my friend.
Colder.
Oh, shit, this guy again.
The following year, Vin also appeared in a supporting role in the military drama Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. He played the role of Sergeant Virgil Shroom Bream, who was rescued during a shootout in Iraq. It was Vin's first war film since Saving Private Ryan, but unlike its predecessor, it failed at the box office and was almost unnoticed by the audience. In 2017, Vin Diesel returned to a couple of his old roles.
Oh boy. Here we go again.
Firstly, it was as stated in the title of the film XXX Return of Xander Cage. The film was directed by DJ Caruso and produced by Vin Diesel in his One Race Films. The film became a sequel to the previous two parts, even though Diesel was not filmed in the second. Therefore, in this part of the story, he performed Triple X, who, as it was believed, died. The film grossed $346 million at the box office, and it was another success for Diesel. But the most interesting thing was after the release, where the popular Brazilian YouTuber Carol Moreira interviewed Vin about the film. It is hard to describe in one sentence what happened in that interview, but it is possible to describe it as cringy.
But Tom Hanks was the first one, and God, you're so beautiful. God, God, she's so beautiful, man. Am I right or wrong? Look at her. How am I supposed to do this interview? Look at this woman.
Tell me your story.
She's so beautiful. Coño, man. Talk to me, baby. Tell me your story. Tell me yours. Let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's go have lunch.
Probably after 3 minutes of the interview, Vin got bored and ignored the journalist's questions in attempts to return to the interview. In the end, it all came down to some terrible tackles. Interestingly, what his wife and his 3 children thought about it. Perhaps this is the most striking example of what Vin Diesel has been in recent years. He tries very hard to be cheerful and open in public, so he sometimes goes too far and rolls into antics or father humor. For example, open his Facebook. Vin is the king of Facebook because at the moment he has 106 million subscribers. Even on Instagram, he only has 90 million. And judging by Vin's posts, he really loves elephants. On his Facebook, he conducts broadcasts on which sometimes nothing happens, and he simply repeats the phrases, "I'm doing a live," and the like. For example, there was another such case. In 2017, Vin, along with other actors, attended the premiere of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. When the host stopped him on the red carpet, the actor was broadcasting, and suddenly, right in the middle of the phrase, he forgot that he was on the live and hid the phone in his pocket.
I like that, guys! All right, guys, say hello to everybody on Facebook.
Okay, this is amazing.
You like this?
This is awesome.
Come on, guys. It's just the Groot coming out of me. All right, so they're talking about my jacket. Look at this.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at it. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that action.
Oh my, okay.
Look at that action.
I want
All right, let me get on this. Guys, you see this? It's the Groot coming out of me. I came to the premiere and Groot just...
And only after 10 minutes, he took the phone out of his pocket, looked at the screen, and stated, "Oh my God, you were in my pocket all this time." Indeed, Diesel seems to exude endless positivity, silly jokes, musical interludes, and genuinely friendly chatter. He's one of only 3 people in the world to have over 100 million followers on Facebook, accompanied by Shakira and Ronaldo. The secret lies in the fact that he leads his social networks. Vin constantly shares some interesting moments of the day with his fans. He does not have a person who would process his posts. In his words, if there was an intermediary involved, people would feel it. It's a social media age, and I want to be smart about connecting with my fans, my people. But the truth is, I'm an old school Hollywood guy like Harrison Ford or George Clooney, or even Brando, who doesn't want my private life out there in certain ways. I think it's better when people go to see my movies that there's some sense of mystery about who I am. Maybe there's a contradiction there. I'm still figuring it out. Vin soon repeated the role of Groot once again as part of the crossover films Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, where the Guardians of the Galaxy joined the Avengers team to defeat the common evil of Thanos. Vin once said in an interview, "I think there's going to be a moment that we're all waiting for, and whether you know it or not, you are waiting to see Groot and the Hulk get down." Both films were extremely successful, grossing nearly $5 billion at the box office. When Vin passed 50 years, he continued to act in spectacular action films and still has good physical shape. At the same time, according to Vin, when he hears action, he gets into the character, forgetting that he is not immortal. He does not follow any special diet and tries to just eat healthily. In 2020, Diesel played the role of Bloodshot in the superhero film of the same name, directed by David S.F. Wilson. According to the plot, Bloodshot is a soldier killed in battle, but the organization that decided to use him as a weapon brought him back to life, endowing him with superpowers.
Morning, sunshine. Remember me?
Wiggins.
No, it is I, King Joffrey Jafar, ruler of Zamunda. Of course it's Wiggins. What else would it be?
Bloodshot is one of the most popular characters in the 80 million editions of the Valiant Universe comics, and was also the most anticipated. But its premiere was during the coronavirus pandemic, and in cinemas it grossed less than the budget spent. Critics also did not appreciate the film, which is why it is considered a failure. By the way, in the same year, Vin did not abandon the idea of making music and released his first 2 songs, Days Are Gone and Feel Like I Do, produced by Kygo. Feel Like I Do premiered on September 24th on The Kelly Clarkson Show, where Diesel said that he is blessed that on a year that he would normally be on a film set, but that's not possible, he had another creative outlet, another way to show or share with people his heart. Vin is fine now. He returned to being Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Dominic Toretto in the first of 2 films in the final part of Fast and the Furious. A second film is in development, and Vin recently announced a new film in the Riddick series, Riddick pariah. Until recently, there were rumors that the actor had also joined James Cameron's Avatar series, but it turned out that Vin was simply misunderstood. It's just that he was a fan of the director for a long time and visited his set to look at the work of the master. Vin Diesel has come a long way, but never stops to amaze us. There have been failures in his life, but he always looks forward and tries to be the best version of himself, which motivates those around him. From an aspiring actor who makes a short film for his own money to break into Hollywood, he has grown to the star of the most successful blockbusters and the man on whose shoulders the Fast and the Furious franchise was accelerated to the speed of a space rocket. Well, if you are interested to know what caused Dwayne Johnson to leave the successful project, go to watch the video clicking the link on the screen. There, we tell the chronology of events and figure out who is the culprit of the conflict between Vin Diesel and The Rock.
I'll see you soon, Toretto.
Forward to a cop.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. You can like it so you will speed up the release of new videos on this channel. Well, that's all for today. Biographer was with you. See you soon.